Hello and welcome to Feminine Wisdom. Today I'm talking to the beautiful Cherisse Yang about heart sovereignty.
Hello.
G'day Cherisse, how are you, love?
I'm good.
How's Auckland treating you?
It's quite funny, like we're both in New Zealand and you're wearing long sleeves. I'm like, it's so hot in Auckland.
Oh, it's sunny here, but it's it's still a little bit cold. Yeah, it's still a wee bit nippy, but we're meant to be having good record temperatures this week.
Oh, awesome.
So that'll be good. So heart sovereignty. So I know that 2021 this year is going to be all about us dropping more into our heart, really softening and coming from a compassionate space, more of a compassionate space of not only for the collective and the people around us, but having a compassionate space really for ourselves. And so that's the energy that I've been feeling strongly that's going to be coming through for 2021. And around that is, you know, heart sovereignty is something that probably not many of us actually even know what that actually means. So what do you feel, Cherisse, when we talk about heart sovereignty? What do you feel that means, or how can we explain that to the people that are going to watch this video?
To me, quite simply, heart sovereignty means being led by your heart, and that being the primary. And I totally feel what you're saying about 2021. I feel this year, actually 2020, it's given us a very wonderful opportunity to shed away a lot of the old programming, a lot of the worries that, you know, it's like if we didn't shed them away, we would have gone crazy. So it's actually been a year of shedding away. So when we enter into 2021, that expansion can come from our hearts. And so it's going to be a very joyous process.
Yeah, it is going to be so joyous. I think the issue for many people is going to be, you know, especially, well, for both men and females, because for so long we've been taught if we are in our heart, emotional, you know, vulnerability, our programming for the last 10 years has been very much like, you can't be emotional, you know, you're too emotional. We've been more on guard and not really expressing what's truly in our heart. And so it's going to be really, I think a lot of people are going to struggle with this.
Yeah, well, I think one of the key things to remember is actually biologically, we are built to be led from our heart. And the mind is actually should be used for discernment. So I'm going to put my sort of chiropractor scientist hat on now.
Well, I love it.
So it's actually been very well researched that the heart has a very intricate and very complex neural system that is actually now termed the heart brain, because the complexity and intricacy is, so you can draw parallels with the brain. And also that it's been shown that the brain, the heart, that heart brain can actually learn and remember. And so whatever trauma or whatever experiences that we have had, it's not just, you know, imprinted into our brain, but it's actually also imprinted into the heart brain. So this is actually all very interesting, because it's not something airy fairy or spiritual or, you know, like hippy dippy that, you know, when we talk about heart sovereignty or when we're talking about living from the heart, because biologically we are actually built to be heart-centered. And so neurologically, the heart actually sends more information to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. So there's just so many interesting implications when we think about it. So the heart actually has memory functions, and it can operate without your brain's input. It also secretes hormones, and so it can actually regulate the rest of your body. So this is actually all very interesting, because people think, oh, the heart is just, you know, just pumps the blood around the body, but it's so much more than that. So people that have given birth will probably be familiar with oxytocin, you know, the love hormone. So oxytocin is also secreted by the heart. So it's not just something that's secreted by your reproductive organs and your brain, it's also produced by the heart. So love is actually really, really real.
Yeah. And like when you say that, you know, for me, instantly what came up for me was my first marriage was not ideal. Let's just put it, not ideal. And my heart took a lot of trauma on. And so for me, for when it was time for me to start dating, start putting myself out there again, start like exploring into other relationships and, you know, word love, was really, really hard, because I actually had to unwind all of that pain and all of that conditioning to really become quite raw, and I had to do my work. And I think that's what we, you know, for so often, and this is me speaking as a medium and me speaking as a counsellor, because I did counselling for many, many years, we actually, you could see people falling in love or wanting something else more, or in relationships with, you know, potential partners, but they were still holding back that 10%. And I know, and that 10% was really them still having control and not really surrendering into what their heart was feeling. It was still the blockages from past relationships, from past wounds, from past trauma. And so when you talk about the heart speaks to the brain, not the brain speaks to the heart, like I actually understand that at so many levels, because I saw it every day. And people couldn't understand. I don't know why. No, I'm not holding back 10%. And you were like, yeah, you actually are. You're not fully committing. There's an element that's still the final block, that's still the final thing. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's, you know, you can be married, you can be in a relationship, you can be living with someone, but it's emotional. It's not a physical block. They spin your wheels. They, you know, you are physically connected. It's that 10% of emotion that they don't understand.
Absolutely. And I think that's the difficult part, because before the age of 7, we mostly run on our emotional body, run through our emotional center. So oftentimes people don't even have the conscious awareness of what's going on the emotional level, or they don't have the vocabulary to talk about their emotions. And so this is why I actually feel, say, heart sovereignty is something that is so important for parents, for individuals, and it's actually good to practice it before you even start building a family, because kids do pick up on, you know, what's going on around them. So the neurologically, it imprints mostly on their caretakers, and also energetically they imprint as well. And actually, talking about energy, something really interesting about the heart is actually the heart produces more electromagnetic field than the brain. So the electric field that's generated by the heart, just from its pumping and all the electric actions, it's actually 60 times more powerful than the brain. It's higher in amplitude, 60 times higher in amplitude. And the magnetic field that's produced by the heart is more than 100 times that's produced by the brain. Yeah. And so you can actually measure it using it's called squid-based magnetometer, like some high-tech measuring device. So it goes to about 1 meter away from the body. So, you know, like those diagrams of all these fields are coming out from the center of the body. It's not just some like hippy dippy dude that's like drawn these diagrams. These actually can be scientifically measured now. So, so when you think about it, the heart generates so much more electromagnetic energy than the brain. That, I think that really shifts how we just look at the connection between, or the relationship between the heart and the brain, or our mind. Yeah.
And I think that, for so long we've been living under a patriarchal system for the last 10 years. Well, forever, sorry. But for the last, 10 years, it's been really in our faces, and now it's starting to break down and starting to shift. The interesting thing is we have disconnected from our hearts and we lead from our brains. And it's going to be hard to reverse that, to lead from your heart space and really feel into that and lead from it and lean into the uncomfortableness, because it's uncomfortable at times, to really allow yourself to grow, not only within your business, but within your own personal lives, and expand into your own deeper knowing.
Absolutely. And I think people will be surprised to find that, well, now it won't be a surprise, because now we know that the heart generates so much more electromagnetic field than the brain. Is when you do lead from the heart, things will change for you. Things will become so much easier, and it will be, it's like, when you do business, if you're doing business with someone who is also heart-centered, things get done, and you grow, and things move forward so much more easily. Yeah. And then it's like, then you create something that's completely magical, whereas, trying to do business with someone who is completely mind-driven, then it's a completely different situation and experience.
Yeah, because it's totally, and it's a more enjoyable experience.
Yeah.
It's more enjoyable, and it's more aligned if you lead from this place rather than this place, because when you start to expand into this space, you attract the same people at the same vibrational level with the same values as you.
Absolutely. And I also feel that, like, we get influenced by each other's states. And so the more we bring that heart-centeredness to the table, it actually also helps to not heal, but it helps the other people around us to remember what it's like to be in their heart space. And so as a collective, then we're actually building something that is very special, like, then it's like that new earth we're talking about. So through heart sovereignty, there's so much we can achieve as a collective, as humanity. There's actually these interesting research projects that's going on at the moment. So there are different stations in cities measuring the electromagnetic field in the area, and that actually gives a measure of the social stability in that area. And so they can pick up on the electromagnetic field that's being generated by the heart, and so depending on the pattern that they're seeing, they can sort of get an idea of what's going on in that area. And so I feel heart sovereignty, oftentimes we think, it's about us, it's just about loving us, but the implications of actually living from the heart is so much greater.
And I think people for so long have put an emphasis on education and their facts and figures, and very much being in the mind, when really I've always said my power is my heart. When I'm in my most potent space, I'm coming from a heart-centered space. And for me personally, speaking from my own experience, the post I put on Facebook, that went viral, and Miss Lilly that created 34 ton of food, for the people of Kaikoura, nothing to do with me. I came from a space of I wanted to help, community, heart-centered, put it out there, it connected to other people's hearts. Another thing, you know, the 15th of March, look at the way Christchurch responded. Very heart-centered, very heart sovereignty, compassionate, caring, loving, when we could have responded in a completely different manner. And look how that ripple effect, like, not only was within our own physical country, but that ripple effect showed the world how we can respond and do something different. That's heart sovereignty at its best.
Absolutely. I think the examples that you just gave, it's like they are perfect stories of how heart sovereignty plays out in the world. And it's like when you made that post for Kaikoura, it opened the door for people to feel safe, to also to express from their heart. I find there's this fear in our culture today of being ridiculed when you lead from your heart.
Oh, totally.
And it does take a lot of courage, but you know, if people just start taking that little bit of risk every day, it can be just something very, very small. It can create a huge effect. Well, it doesn't have to be big. Like, not everyone have to, you know, put on the post and, you know, like really stand up in public for something that they believe in, or like really fight for it. But even just really small acts. And I think this is where, you know, like being heart-centered in the family, in your personal relationships, or with your children is one of the, or at work. You know, these are some of the best ways to kind of start getting into it. Because I find people it's easier for us to be kind and heart-centered towards other people than towards ourselves first. And so it's like, so how do we start putting it into practice and start inviting more love into our lives?
And I think that we've become a society that will connect through social media, will connect in other ways that isn't really a true connection, that isn't really a heart, that isn't really a heartfelt. I'm not saying social media is not a heartfelt connection, but being in the physical, like, we've become, there's an element that what we think now is connection isn't true connection, true conversations. And, you know, you see that where, fuck it, I'm just going to say it, no filter. You see that when, you know, there are so many posts that go around, you know, with suicide. And people go, oh yeah, I support suicide. I'll cut and paste that, put that on my Facebook page, or, you know, whatever it is at that particular time. And I understand that people want to support other people that are going through those things at those times. And I totally are respectful of that. But how about you really connect to your heart and write your own individual post that really has meaning, and talk about your experience and become vulnerable in your heart and really own it. And that's the thing. We're too scared to have really robust conversations and show up in our heart and say, shit, today I'm fucking struggling. It's a really tough day today because, you know, blah, blah, blah. Or today there were, you know, we just have, and that's what I mean by connection.
Yeah. I actually think this is, like, this leads to something really interesting.
And that's it. Like, we just have, we want to support other people, but it's like, it's almost like a little bit, oh, this is going to trigger people, a little bit artificial.
Yeah, because I think now it's like when you speak your truth on Facebook,
is it really your truth at times?
Yeah, you know, I actually find, so like when it's really your truth, I find that people feel it and they very often they actually then come with their truth. But oftentimes on social media, people post like really super, it's like they're posting whatever their mask they're wearing onto Facebook. And that's when people get slammed. And I think then, oftentimes people say, oh, if someone puts their opinion on there, then they get slammed. But it's like, yeah, but the nature of the opinion and something that a heart-centered message, they're actually quite different things. So I guess for all the viewers of our little Zoom call is from my experience, is have no fear about putting your heart truth out there. Because it will always be supported. Like the vibration you bring to the table is completely different, and what it will do is open people's hearts. And the dickheads that usually troll other people on Facebook, they don't usually respond to those ones, because it's just like you're talking on different levels. So yeah.
And I have to say this, like, we need to get real. Like, if we really, next year's going to be challenging enough. Like, let's just get clear about that. This year was the start of something that is going to have a big, because systems need to break down. Heart sovereignty and the word compassion, we are never going to learn. We think we know what compassion means now, but next year we're going to learn it through and through. And so, this comes back to this, and this comes back to really not being afraid to show up in our muckiness, in our struggle, in our pain, in our worry, in our hurt, in our because here's the thing, when we show up in being honest and who we really are as a human being and having this human experience, the reality is we give another woman to go, fuck, I'm actually okay where I am. I'm actually okay. The struggle is actually okay. And that's what we have forgotten. It's the power of connection and speaking our truth from a heart-centered, sovereign place.
Yeah.
Actually, it's us releasing that out, but it actually has the ripple effect to so many other people's hearts that you'll touch. And heart sovereignty isn't about love, rainbows, butterflies, all the fluffy shit. It's also the shadow shit too that we don't talk about. It's about, I'm really struggling with grief. I'm really struggling with, supporting my son right now. It's all of those things that really implement us as human beings in our heart. And it's not just love, and it's not just joy. We have moments of that, but it's also the stuff that brings us to our knees on the bathroom floor crying.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I really love that song. Oh, Love. Like it's breaking you apart from the inside out.
Yeah.
So you can heal yourself, because that is like, that's actually what those painful experiences are, is actually they bring you to that experience of being human. And it's through the humanness that we access this completely divine energy that's already within us. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think that's what we're scared to. We're scared, that's the vulnerability. That's where we have become, as humans, we've become like guarded armor, like defensive at times. I'll only show up. I'll show up to this point, and then oh no, you've just poked me. It's too prickly. We're not going there. Well, here's the thing: for there to be great growth, for there to be great expansion within your own self, I'm sorry, you need to go there.
Yeah, and I actually feel the practice of journaling makes this really, it's a really good way to access a different aspect of yourself, to sort of peel away that fear of or that guarding.
Yeah,
because this actually comes back to what you said about social media, is we're not in a culture where storytelling is is valued. And we can only start telling stories when we have reflected on them and when we have processed them. So we can actually tell stories instead of just venting or bitching, you know? And so I think for me, the art of journaling and reflections is a beautiful entrance into being more heart-centered and actually shedding away a lot of the crap.
Totally. So for me, it's journaling that supports me with and being more connected to my heart. It's heart chanting. I always go through waves where I feel very called to drop deeper into my heart, deeper into another layer. Every time I do it, it very much, because I started doing it 2 weeks ago, I started chanting every day. Every time I did it, it brought another layer of crap up that I needed to work through. And it was prickly and it was, you know, a struggle, and I couldn't understand why I was feeling those emotions. And I was like, it's my chanting. It's bringing up old stuff that is still I'm needing to work through and allow it to just be released. I use rose oil on my heart. It's the highest vibration. It very much opens me up. For those that love yoga moves that are very expanding of the heart, meditations.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And actually talking about meditations, so coming back to the electromagnetic, all that science thing about the heart. So there's actually been an experiment that was done on, so they measure the electromagnetic frequencies that came out of people. And what they found was prayers and meditation actually help to create more coherence in the patterns generated by the heart, and especially prayers about gratitude. So it's not about, oh, dear God, please help me, give me a new car, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
but it's you know, prayers of love and gratitude. And these actually enhance the fields that are created by your heart. And so prayer is something that, you know, it doesn't matter what religion or what sort of, you know, spiritual practice you do, but just the actual prayer and meditation, it make a huge difference to you biologically.
Yeah, and for me, you know, I set an intention for the day, and then at the end of the day, before you go to sleep, what are 5 things that you're grateful for that happened during that day? And exactly what you said, not I'm grateful that, you know, I bought a new pair of jeans or I've got a new pair of Gucci sunglasses. The real stuff. I'm grateful that I had a meaningful conversation with Cherisse today that will activate change for other listeners. I'm grateful for the time that I had with my son being on the floor. I'm grateful for, you know, because when that expands us deeper into our heart. In some cases, for some people watching this, it might simply be, I'm grateful I got out of bed.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm grateful that I have money to pay the bills, money to pay the bills. And that's okay too, because when we show an emphasis on what we're really grateful for, what we do, we shift our mindset, or we shift our energetic vibration that's on our outer body, to then kind of start asking for more of that.
Definitely.
Start calling more of that. And I think that's what people, because when you're going through struggle, and I think I really need to say this, when we're going through struggle, or we don't know what's right with us, or we feel ucky and micky and you've got to remember it's okay just to be, and you've got to remember that it will pass.
Yeah, that is amazing. Yes, that is a very good reminder. Yeah, it's a beautiful reminder.
I think that's what we forget.
Yeah, well, I think the ego sort of thinks everything's going to be forever. Good or bad.
It's not forever. And so I've always said the magic, the magic, we always, the biggest question I get asked is, what's my magic? Your magic is sitting with your heart.
Yeah, absolutely.
And working from a heart-centered space, when you come from that space, so much is achievable in the world. All the barriers get broken down, because love will always, love's vibration, which comes from the heart, is a higher vibration than fear.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I actually love the in A Course of Miracles.
Oh,
they
yeah.
talk about how, like, how can you serve love? How can you be a servant of love? And that's how you make miracles a norm, is when you come from this heart space. And like what you said before, it's just like the impossible becomes possible.
Oh, totally.
What do you think?
Totally. So, are you keen to do a meditation with me?
Sure, that sounds great. I actually have my bowl right next to me. I've been doing a lot of singing.
Oh, so, well, funny, I was going to start heart chanting.
Ah,